Alright, I got a discount for you. We're talking Xbox Live. Loads of gaming discounts. All you have to do is go to my description, copy my code from the description, paste my code. Woof, it's gaming time. Righto, Toyota champs. Now you have seen all the other RX 5500 XTs. Now let's have a look at the best one. Of course, I'm talking about the ROG Strix RX 5500 XT Gaming OC baby, OC edition. Now, while we unbox this, let's just talk about the RX 5500 XT, just the specs of it. So you get 22 compute units, 1408 stream processors, 8GB of GDDR6 with max memory bandwidth of 222GB per second. So yeah, H.265 encoding, H.264 encoding, DisplayPort 1.4, DSC, and HDMI 4K 60. You also only need 1x8 pin, which actually this one does have as well. Recommended you have at least 450 watts of power, and this would typically take 130 watts or maybe a bit more if we're overclocking, and hey, this is the Strix baby, so we're going to go for it. So it's actually not that far from what goes in the MacBook Pro. The actual MacBook Pro has 2 extra CU units, but this is basically the sort of overclocked RX 5500. Now this one here is the Strix, so you get an 1865 megahertz overclock. And why I say the Strix are the best is, don't take my word for it, Dodgy Dave, my mate, he builds PCs, custom water-cooled PCs, and he only uses Strix. He can use a Founders card, and it would be cheaper for him to use the Founders card. He can get the water blocks for it, but they always make water blocks for Strix, and he always uses them because he reckons he never gets coil wind. The power delivery is just spot on. They use like premium alloy chokes and solid polymer capacitors and an array of high current power stages. He just reckons they got the best power delivery, never had a problem with them. And either have I. I've never had one with coil wind, anything like that, automated AU, so manufactured by machine. This card comes with 2 fans on it. They are the Axial Tech fans. These are new fans. And it's 0 dB. So meaning if you're under 60 degrees, the fans won't even be on. Of course, this is Strix. You get a back plate. You also get a fan header, so you can connect the fan to it. So, once the GPU ramps up, your case fan will ramp up too. Of course, it works with Aura Sync, all that good stuff. Now, if we have a look at the card itself, it does take 1 8-pin, which is really good. You don't require that much power. This card is for 1080p gaming, and here's the honest truth, right? All 5500 XTs or any of the graphics cards are all exactly the same. They're going to perform the same. They've got the same GPU and stuff like that. But why you buy Strix is for the extra features. I mean, have a look at how big this heatsink is. Wow. It is amazing. It is one chunky mother. And I've got an RTX 2070 that has a smaller heatsink than this. Also on the top you have a button there so you can turn the lights off if you want. But it also has like a BIOS switch. It has a performance BIOS and a silent BIOS. This is the most useless thing I've ever seen on any piece of equipment. You know why? Because you just leave it in performance mode. You're not going to hear it anyway in performance mode. So I don't know why you'd want to put it in silent mode. It does run about 5 degrees cooler in silent mode. The clock's, about at 100-ish, sort of, went into the 1700s with the clock speed. If you put it in performance mode, it's constantly doing in the 1900s megahertz range, over that constantly all the time, and barely gets over 60. That's why I think it's the most useless thing ever. Why would you even want to put it in silent mode when it's virtually silent in performance mode? They've actually just over-engineered it and made the heatsink that good that it's actually superfluous. I could never ever hear this even when it went over 6 degrees, and it just barely got over 60 degrees. I could never hear it over my case fans or my CPU fans ever. You also get that fan header. It's great that they have it, but you're not going to need any extra cooling there, connecting it to your case fans. Once the fans kick in, yes, you can ramp up the case fans to sync with it, but you won't need it unless you're in sort of like some really hot environment or your case has like really bad airflow. You're never going to hear this thing even when the fans are on. And a lot of the time, the fans weren't even on at all. So I would just don't worry about that silent mode. Just leave it in performance mode again, unless you have like a really restrictive case that doesn't get much airflow or you're in a really hot environment. If you're in room temperature, you're never going to have to worry about temperature or noise. And that's it. It never really got much over 60 degrees. 65 was about the highest I've seen. maybe peaked a little bit over there, but most of the time it was around the 60 mark, and a lot of the times it was under 60. So it's an amazing card. If you want the best RX 5500 XT, this is the one to get. Actually works in the Mac too. I checked it in a Mac with an eGPU, works no problem. So if you want to use it with a MacBook Pro or MacBook Air or something like that, it'll work, no problems. Let's go into a bit of my gaming play. And yes, talking about the card itself, it performs like every other 5500 XT. It is amazing performance, 1080p gaming. You don't need any more than this if you're doing 1080p. You can even get the refresh rates up, over 100 frames per second. And all the games I tested here, the benchmarks, they're all at ultra settings, 1080p. So happy, cool, silent gaming with this Asus Strix. I mean, you pay a little bit extra, but why not? As Ash would say, you can't put a price on silent, and this would be card specific, but I could get over 100 megahertz overclock with the GPU and like 250 with the memory. And the memory, even overclocked, is sort of like in the sort of 70 degrees there. So an amazing card. You pay a bit more, but you get the best. Let's have a look at some of my gameplay. Catch you in the next one, guys. Tally ho. Right, so we're playing Call of Duty something, I don't know what it's called. It's the latest one, and we are got nailed there. We're playing stock, okay? So this is with the stock BIOS, the stock fan setting. It's on the it's not on the silent mode, it's just on the normal mode. And you can see there the graphics, alright? And I've even overclocked this, and even oh god, oh that was so funny. Yeah, even when I overclocked it, it barely got over 60 degrees, alright? Now this will depend on the game and just the way it uses GPUs and settings and stuff like that, and yeah, I'll just get nailed. But the fans won't turn on until 60 degrees with this thing. Now it has a silent sort of switch on it, alright? Why would you even use it? There's no point. This heatsink is so friggin' good that you would never really need it. I mean, and even when it is on, like for example, even when it does go over 60 degrees and you might hear the fan is actually almost inaudible. Like, I'm not even joking. It's almost inaudible. And what I mean by it's inaudible, it's like you're not going to hear it over your like your CPU fan or anything like that, or just case fans and stuff like that. Like, it's amazing. So I don't even see the point of putting it in silent mode, but let's put it in the silent mode there, 62 degrees. That's about as high as I've ever seen it. So let's put it in its silent mode now. And by the way, I can't hear the fan now, so all I can hear is my CPU fan. So let's put it in its silent mode. I'm going to lose some FPS, but let's see. Right, so now I'm in the silent mode. So I've switched the switch on the actual graphics card itself. On the silent mode, about 5-6 degrees cooler. The clock is a little bit lower. Instead of being in the 1900s, it's in the 17 to 1800s. The frame rates, they're not that. A little bit slower, maybe 10 frames per second slower on this. So, oh, what the hell? How did I not get in? Probably 10 frames per second slower, roughly. I'll have a benchmark and I'll do a benchmark and I'll test. But it seems to be about that. Well, I couldn't hear it before, and I definitely can't hear it now. Usually with these silent modes, the 1% lows are sort of affected. It doesn't seem to be dipping or anything like that. It seems to be, 5 degrees cooler. Oh, hello. Bye-bye. Yeah, I think it's a pointless exercise. Just keep it in its full performance mode. It barely gets over 60 degrees, and you can hardly hear it anyway. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Anyway.
So, we'll look for Bastion later once it's safe.